Welcome to Reality TV Podcasts. The first update we have today is, well, it's really a deep dive into the messy reality of what happens when television timelines just completely clash with real life.
Yeah.
We have several different threads we're going to pull on today, covering some major relationship shifts, some really surprising admissions, and maybe the most critical thing, this feedback loop, where the stars themselves are criticizing how their own intensely private stories were produced.
That's such a perfect way to frame it because that friction, between what's authentic and what's influenced by production, that's really the central theme of everything we're looking at today.
Right.
So our mission really is to give you a comprehensive, structured breakdown. We're going to be analyzing just how difficult it is to keep any kind of private life when you're on camera. And, the very real impact these shows have on committed relationships, on divorces, and the brutal ways that these co-star dynamics and friendships get tested when loyalty becomes, well, a publicly recorded commodity.
Yeah, it's like every interaction is an evidence exhibit.
It is. We're diving into how much control these stars truly surrender, or in some of these cases, how desperately they try to reclaim it once those cameras start rolling.
Okay, so let's start with this Bronwyn-Newport situation from The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. This is just a textbook case of how miscommunication, when you couple it with the pressure to perform for the cameras, can completely derail someone's ability to protect their personal life.
It's all about a simple failure to communicate the topic.
Exactly. It all starts there.
Yeah, you have to begin with the context of what everyone's calling the plane drama, which sounds simple, but it created this massive misunderstanding that Bronwyn carried into filming.
Okay, so set the stage on that.
The big group story, the one everyone was following, involved Meredith Marks. She allegedly screamed insults at Brittany Bateman for hours on a flight back from a cast trip. It was, this explosive event that was supposed to set the stage for all the filming that came next.
And here's the most crucial piece of information. Bronwyn was not on that flight.
Not at all.
She took a completely different plane home, so when she gets back to Salt Lake, she's totally out of the loop. She has no idea about the specifics of the Meredith and Brittany fight.
Right, so the context she's missing is the entire conversation the rest of the cast thought they were about to have.
But, and this is the kicker, she arrives carrying her own personal plane drama. And she mistakenly assumes that her drama is the explosive topic everyone is buzzing about.
Exactly. She lands in Salt Lake, and the first thing she sees is a Twitter post. And this post alleges that her husband, Todd Bradley, was caught looking at pictures of other women on his phone during his flight to New York.
Wow. So she's just been hit with this.
Instantly. And this social media allegation, just this one tweet, was enough for her to kick him out of the house. So this is raw, it's immediate, and it's incredibly painful for her.
So she's scheduled to go meet up with Whitney Rose, maybe Mary too, and she thinks she's walking into an ambush about her own marriage.
That's what's in her head. She's anticipating being questioned, judged, about Todd allegedly cheating on her.
And that anticipation leads to the pivotal moment, the one that defines everything.
It does. When she sits down with Whitney, Bronwyn just launches into it. She reveals the cheating tweet, and then in this moment of just extreme vulnerability and maybe, proactive damage control, she goes a step further.
This is where it gets really intense.
She states that she would consider having an open relationship if that's what Todd needed to salvage their partnership. And you have to understand, this was not some settled, decided strategy.
No, it sounds like a desperate thought bubble.
It was a desperate, tentative solution to a massive crisis, and she just offered it up right there on camera.
Okay, so this is the key insight, right? We have interviews from her later, after this all aired, where she kind of unpacks her psychology.
Yes.
And she explained her rationale for sharing something so deeply intimate. She genuinely believed that Mary and Whitney already knew about the tweet about her husband.
She was sure of it. She assumed that either the production team or just, the social media grapevine had already informed the cast. She thought the plane drama they were gathered to film was her marriage.
In her mind, the cameras were already pointed directly at her failure. She said she thought, "They're coming to me. Is your husband cheating?"
And because of that belief, she felt like she had to be preemptively open about how embarrassed and hurt she was, and the drastic measures they were considering just to fix it.
So instead of just sitting back, listening, and letting the conversation unfold naturally, she leads with her most dramatic, most vulnerable, and ultimately most painful revelation.
The open relationship confession.
Yeah, as her defensive opening statement to an interrogation that was never even going to happen.
Exactly. She was reacting to a ghost threat. She said it herself later, she admitted. If I had just sat there and let them talk first, both Mary and Whitney, I would have maybe not shared quite so much.
Because they were actually talking about Meredith.
The whole time, leaving Bronwyn feeling completely, utterly overexposed. The cameras caught this raw, reactive moment of a star anticipating drama, only for her to realize, way too late, that she had volunteered her deepest marital secret for absolutely no reason.
And this just highlights one of the profound perils of this whole reality television process, doesn't it?
It really does.
You are so incentivized to be open. You're always anticipating the narrative arc. But when that anticipation is wrong, you end up placing these intensely private, raw negotiations, like considering an open marriage, into the hands of editors and co-stars who, let's be honest, may not treat that information with any kind of care.
And those consequences, they were felt intensely by Todd Bradley when the show finally aired months later.
Right, because there's always that lag.
A huge lag. Bronwyn spoke about his reaction to seeing that open relationship conversation hit the screen, and she confirmed that while they had discussed it privately in the interim, between filming and airing, watching it back was really helpful for him to watch.
Okay, let's try to analyze that reaction. Why would he be shocked by seeing it air if he knew the conversation had already happened?
I think the answer is in the difference between a private discussion, an internal negotiation between two people, and a public televised declaration.
Once it airs, it's real in a different way.
It's permanent. It transforms from a potential strategy into a documented reality for millions of viewers. It's no longer just their private business.
And the most important insight into the damage this caused, I think, comes from this striking sports analogy Bronwyn used to describe Todd's frustration.
Yes, this is so telling. She suggested that Todd was upset because she discussed their personal, intimate issues, which were their marriage conversations with Whitney.
The analogy she used was that he felt she was giving the other team our playbook.
Now, that analogy is so loaded. It's just packed with meaning about loyalty and power dynamics.
It really is. Let's unpack that. The playbook analogy, it defines the marriage as this private, tactical unit.
For Todd, the internal struggles, the tentative solutions, like the open relationship idea, those are strategic secrets. They're privileged information that the team, the couple needs to win.
So by sharing that strategy with Whitney, Bronwyn effectively breached that marital contract. She turned their internal secrets into public tools.
Tools that could be used by the other team, which, that could represent the outside world, the other co-stars, or just public critics online.
But I want to pause here and maybe challenge that interpretation a little bit. If you, as a couple, sign up for a reality show that demands authenticity, is the husband being naive to expect his wife not to discuss their marital issues with the cast?
That's a great question.
Or is his anger less about a betrayal of trust and more about the public embarrassment of admitting that kind of vulnerability?
I think it has to be a mix of both. He knows the contract demands openness, but I think he defines the boundary of that openness differently than she does.
Yeah.
His shock probably isn't that she talked about their problems. It's that she discussed the solution, the tentative play. She discussed it with someone external to the marriage before it was a firm decision on their part.
It violates that spirit of unity.
Exactly. The conflict here is just so profound. Reality TV demands you expose the playbook, but exposing the playbook actively undermines the self-preservation of the family unit, which is built on internal, confidential strategy.
And that tension is what ultimately led to their separation. It proves that the conflict between calculated self-protection and the necessity of production is, well, it's almost impossible to resolve gracefully on camera.
She lost control of her own story.
All because of a simple miscommunication about which plane crash they were supposed to be filming.
It's incredible when you boil it down to that.
All right, moving on to The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. We're shifting from, accidental oversharing to very intentional, highly scrutinized issues of perceived betrayal and loyalty.
And specifically between Kyle Richards and Dorit Kemsley.
Yes. The current sticking point, which really seems insurmountable for them, centers entirely on Kyle defending Dorit's estranged husband, PK.
This specific conflict, it just perfectly highlights the impossibility of maintaining neutrality in a reality TV friendship when one friend is going through a massive life transition like a separation.
You have to pick a side.
It feels like you do. After a recent episode, Kyle publicly defended PK. She argued that she had a different reaction than the rest of the cast because, in her words, she knows him as a different person than Dorit was portraying on camera.
And this defense wasn't just about the here and now. It reached way back into the history of their relationship, specifically about PK's issues with drinking.
Right. Kyle clarified the context of PK's sensitivities around Dorit discussing his sobriety. She said PK was totally fine with Dorit confirming that he'd stopped drinking or that he was sober. But what upset him, specifically and repeatedly, was her using the term alcoholic on air.
And that distinction is actually crucial, isn't it?
It's huge. In the public sphere, especially when you have children involved and there might be legal issues pending, the difference between a stop drinking and is an alcoholic carries very different legal and social stigmas.
So by defending PK on that specific, almost technical point, Kyle was essentially telling Dorit, you've crossed a line that I, as your friend, recognize is sensitive, not just for him, but for your entire shared family.
But the most sensitive and emotional issue for Kyle, as she later explained it, was the parental issue. Kyle admitted that when she watched Dorit speaking publicly about PK's quality as a father, she got deeply worried. She knew those comments wouldn't just hurt PK, they would inevitably affect their children.
Who are old enough now to see this stuff.
Absolutely. They can consume the media, they can hear the conversations. Kyle affirmed that from what she'd seen, PK was a good parent. And her reasoning was that regardless of the marital issues, regardless of whether he was physically absent during that specific filming period, she didn't think those comments, especially labeling him an absent parent, should be made in a public space.
Because viewers will see them 6 months later, and they become permanently memorialized.
It becomes the truth. And this specific point actually got some external support. Amanda Francis, who's a former children's therapist and a mother, she chimed in publicly to back Kyle's worry.
What did she say?
Francis stated that calling someone an absent parent publicly is an extremely low blow and it's highly triggering. She confirmed the long-term damage those labels can cause when they become part of a permanent public story.
So Kyle felt validated in her concern that outsiders, people who don't know PK personally, would form this definitive and negative opinion based purely on Dorit's televised pain.
But despite Kyle's seemingly empathetic reasoning, her focus on the children, Dorit felt completely and totally unsupported.
Yeah, she did not see it that way at all.
Not at all. Dorit's primary struggle was the feeling that Kyle was prioritizing her friendship with PK over their own bond. And she was very clear about her expectation. She said she really expects to feel like my friendship is more important to her than her friendship with him, PK.
Wow. That expectation is enormous.
It's massive.
It demands that Kyle choose a side, explicitly and unequivocally, in a really complex marital breakdown, even when Kyle has her own separate established relationship with the estranged husband.
She's essentially asking Kyle to sacrifice her own truth about PK, that she believes he's a good father for the sake of Dorit's emotional support needs.
And that expectation is magnified, right? Because this friendship was already operating under this heavy burden of past betrayal.
A huge burden. Dorit specifically referenced what she called the unrecovered wound from Kyle's past claim that she had exaggerated how close they were.
I remember that. That was brutal.
It was. Jennifer Tilly and Kathy Hilton both agreed at the time that Kyle's statement was embarrassing and deeply hurtful to Dorit. Jennifer Tilly even speculated that the friendship never fully recovered from that moment.
So when Kyle defended PK this time around, Dorit didn't see empathy for the children. She saw a confirmation of that old wound, that Kyle's loyalty was conditional and, easily dismissed.
And now Dorit is saying she's approaching the friendship moving forward slowly and with trepidation because she needs Kyle's actions in these moments of crisis to actively match her words. She needs proof that their friendship is truly paramount.
This whole situation just demonstrates that in the reality TV ecosystem, friendship isn't some static relationship. It's a dynamic contract that is constantly being reevaluated based on whose side you take when the vulnerability is at its absolute highest.
And that process of reevaluation is exactly what we're seeing happen with Sutton Strack this season. Sutton has been navigating her own really complex emotional landscape, dealing with specific on-camera conflicts and having to redefine her relationship alliances.
Okay, let's start with one of the most painful moments from the season premiere, which was that insult from Erica Jane.
The box comment.
The box comment, where she seemingly body-shamed Sutton by comparing her appearance to a box. I mean, that's just a hard, direct, personal hit.
It is, and Sutton confirmed in an interview that the comment hurt.
And the fallout is really telling, isn't it?
Very. Sutton confirmed she still hasn't spoken to Erica about it. She said she's kind of on the fence. She expressed a hope that their relationship will improve, but this just highlights how those on-camera insults linger.
It's like your workplace doubles as your social life, and you have to reconcile that level of personal offense with the professional demand to film together.
It's an open wound that she has to sit next to for an entire season.
And beyond the personal insults, Sutton also had to process Erica's deeply controversial statement about Tom Girardi,
Where Erica said she hoped he would die before going to prison.
which is just a shocking thing to hear, regardless of the context.
Sutton admitted she was initially speechless because of how abrupt the comment was. It was likely just the sheer unexpected darkness of the sentiment.
But then, on reflection, her view shifted a bit.
It did. Reflecting on it later, Sutton suggested she kind of gets it, adding that Erica can always surprise me. And that shift from shock to a sort of empathy, or at least understanding, it points towards Sutton's new tactical approach this season.
Right, she has a new strategy. She's called it that herself. She's focusing on peace and listening.
Yes. Sutton hinted at some surprises for the audience regarding relationship improvements, and she attributed them to a conscious choice she made before they even started filming. She said she decided, okay, let me calm down and let me listen to these people and let me try to understand where they're coming from.
That's a really sophisticated response to reality TV conflict, actually.
It is. It's a strategy of de-escalation. She's moving away from that reactive persona that often led to her being misunderstood or targeted in the past. And she clearly believes this tactic has helped her relationships with the women, for sure.
But that tactic, it doesn't protect her from external perceptions, does it? She still had to deal with the fan allegation that the group, including her, had effectively iced out Garcelle Beauvais.
And Sutton seemed genuinely confused by this.
Yeah, she really did.
She expressed a wish that Garcelle had just approached her directly about any grievances she had, which indicates there was a massive communication gap between the two friends.
So whether the icing out was intentional or not, the perceived slight by Garcelle and by the audience created this drama that Sutton just wasn't prepared to handle, even with her new, calmer strategy.
It shows that even when you choose peace, the external narrative can still define your actions for you.
And finally, let's look at loyalty extending outside the main cast. Sutton actually took the time to defend the RHOBH ladies against comments from other Bravo stars.
Specifically, Kate Chastain and Heather Gay.
Right, who recently called the Beverly Hills group not the warmest. Sutton insisted the group is fun, even if they sometimes have to sit at separate tables.
That defense is fascinating to me because it suggests that regardless of their internal, televised wars, there is a collective unit there that defends its own internal culture against any outside criticism.
It's like we can fight each other, but you can't fight us.
Exactly. They won't let other franchises or celebrities define them negatively. It was a moment of surprising internal solidarity.
But the biggest twist she predicted was with her closest non-cast friend, Jennifer Tilly.
Right, who has historically been this fierce superfan and was so protective of Sutton when she first joined the show. She acted in a very sisterly way.
And now Sutton is predicting a shock in their relationship this season.
And it seems to center on Jennifer bringing up Garcelle during an argument with Sutton. For Jennifer Tilly, who's been an external figure and a consistent defender, to suddenly insert herself into a cast dynamic and mention a sensitive topic like Sutton's relationship with Garcelle, that must have felt like a profound shift in alliance.
Sutton even said she felt Jennifer surprised herself in that moment.
Which hints at a new rift that's going to test the very definition of who is actually in Sutton's circle and who is just observing the drama from the sidelines.
Okay, shifting focus now. We are at the core tension of this entire deep dive.
Yeah.
The monumental gap between the carefully produced, edited drama you see on television and the much messier, more complicated reality of personal life.
And we have two really contrasting updates here. One is from an ex-husband fighting back hard against a scripted narrative, and the other is from a young reality star who is defining her own highly intimate boundaries.
Let's start with Jeff Lezcani, the ex-husband of Chelsea from Selling Sunset. This entire situation is just a public war against the narrative.
The timeline is key here. They married in 2017. Chelsea filed for divorce in March 2024, but she cited a legal separation date of December 2024.
And since then, Jeff went public with his new girlfriend, Elena Miantijevic, who's a 26-year-old professional volleyball player.
And this public announcement happened right as Jeff decided he had had enough of the televised narrative around their split. He was specifically denying these intense accusations of infidelity that were reportedly going to be a major storyline on the show.
So he took this highly unusual step. He posted a series of messages he called My Side of the Truth.
And he organized his defense into 6 facts. But they function less as a personal statement and more as a full frontal meta commentary on the reality TV industry itself. He's basically giving the viewer a tutorial on how they're being manipulated.
His first 2 facts are really the foundation of his whole argument, and they are a direct challenge to the show's authenticity.
He stated it so clearly. He said reality TV is filmed many months before it airs, often 5 to 6 months prior or even more.
And then, crucially, he declared in no uncertain terms that reality TV is not real, and that editors actively create drama to drive ratings.
And then he added the sharpest indictment of all. He said these editors do this without care who they destroy in the process.
That is a very strong accusation. That production isn't just documenting life, but actively manufacturing emotional ruin for economic gain.
And that strong statement, it gets very specific when he ties it to the plot of the upcoming season. He focused heavily on the Season 8 allegations, and he called the entire cheating storyline a steam.
What were the details of that?
He claimed that the entire Season 8 arc about their split was based solely on a misleading text from a total stranger about an alleged accusation of him making out with another woman in December 2023. He explicitly called it a scheme that misled millions of people.
Okay, let's pause and just analyze the weight of that claim for a second.
Please.
For a major network show to base a season's central conflict, the breakdown of a marriage, on an unverified text message from a stranger, that implies a massive editorial bias toward drama over truth.
And Jeff's defense connects right back to the timeline issue. The show was likely filming in late 2023 and early 2024. So if the allegation was filmed in December 2023, and he denies it, he's claiming the show completely fabricated the reason for their split.
He used that precise denial to put the divorce itself in context. He made it really clear that their marriage ended long before any of the allegations came to a reality TV show for our own personal reasons.
So while he admitted they had tried to make it work, his central point is this. The show didn't cause the split. It exploited existing vulnerabilities and then fabricated a dramatic, televised reason cheating purely for ratings.
But I do have to question this defense a little bit. Is Jeff Lescani entirely innocent in this ecosystem? He was married to a star on the show. He knew the game.
Sure.
So while he might be right that the cheating allegation was a scheme, isn't his public fight back also a form of control and narrative shaping, maybe designed to protect his reputation for future business deals?
Oh, that's absolutely the tension. His public defense is 100% an attempt to reclaim control over the real-life timeline. He's insisting the TV narrative is a dramatic, malicious manipulation of events that happened long ago.
He has to fight back publicly.
He has to protect his name and his business interests from the story that was produced, even if his relationship ended amicably months before the camera started hunting for a villain.
And I think the most convincing part of his defense lies in the current status of their relationship, which completely contradicts the manufactured chaos we're supposed to see on screen.
Yes. He confirmed they're in a good place. They're sharing positive co-parenting experiences. They have 50-50 custody. They live a few blocks apart, and he supports the kids financially.
The real life, by his account, is boringly amicable.
Whereas the produced TV life is explosive and defamatory. Jeff's public statement is the ultimate meta-commentary on this whole genre. It shows a participant actively fighting back against the economic incentives of the industry, trying to re-establish the supremacy of the real-life truth over the dramatic narrative that was created to, in his words, destroy him for a season arc.
Okay, now let's pivot from that high-stakes marital war to a really fascinating contract and how boundaries are defined.
Giudice.
Giudice, daughter of Teresa Giudice and now a star on Next Gen NYC.
This segment offers such a powerful contrast because while Jeff is fighting back against the idea of too much false information being shared, Gia is voluntarily defining her relationship boundaries and her comfort level with sharing deep intimacy on her own terms.
And it's in a way that is just so specific, candid, and generational.
Totally. She appeared on the Plan Brie Uncut podcast, And she was asked this very specific, very modern dating question. What can a woman gift a boyfriend that's equivalent to a bouquet of flowers? A physical reward for behavior.
And her answer was immediate.
Chia, who's 24, answered plainly, without any hesitation. Sex.
And then she just dismissed options like words of affirmation as boring.
The immediate practical nature of that answer, it speaks volumes about a younger generation's approach to public honesty. But she didn't stop there.
No, she went into some pretty racy detail about what she believes excites her boyfriend, Christian Carmichael, who she's been dating since January 2020.
She specified that blowjobs get him more excited than sex because, as she just admitted on this podcast, she does not give them often.
That level of detailed, intimate, and just casual confession on a public podcast is remarkably candid, even for the daughter of a reality TV veteran.
It reveals a new comfort level with public discussion that is radically different from the older generation of housewives. They tend to only share intimate details when they're forced into some production-driven conflict, like discussing infidelity or going to therapy on camera.
Right. Gia is volunteering this. She's owning her sexuality and her relationship dynamics in this casual, conversational format, completely outside the constraints of the show's producers.
And we also got some insight into her partner's perspective. Gia confirmed that Christian actually liked filming Next Gen NYC with her.
Even though she acknowledged that reality television is not his world and was definitely a little bit of an adjustment.
This shows that their long-term partner isn't fighting the system. He's tolerating it and maybe even enjoying the limited exposure.
And this is key. He's not fighting back like Jeff Lascani, because Gia has drawn a very clear line about protecting their core relationship.
Yes, she revealed a boundary she has consistently maintained about her reality TV involvement. She has turned down requests to join Love Island USA year after year, consistently while she was in college.
I have to stress the significance of that rejection. Love Island is a massive exposure. It's a huge opportunity for a young reality star who's looking for a career boost.
A huge opportunity.
And Gia actively rejected that massive professional opportunity, specifically for the sake of her committed long-term relationship with Christian.
It's a profound contrast to the other stars we've discussed today. She is actively defining her relationship's value as higher than the potential fame and drama of a major dating show.
While Bronwyn accidentally exposed her relationship strategy and Jeff is trying to fight the narrative that was imposed on him,
Gia is proactively drawing a firm, specific line. She's saying this intimacy is public, this is private, and this relationship is completely off limits to those external, high-pressure reality TV formats like Love Island. She controls her narrative, not the other way around.
So if we pull back and look at the whole picture, this deep dive really shows a spectrum of friction, doesn't it?
It really does.
On one end, you've got Bronwyn Newport, whose pursuit of authenticity just completely backfired because of a simple miscommunication about the production schedule. It led her to expose a playbook that shattered her husband's trust.
She was just trying to be preemptively honest, and it cost her control of her own story.
And in the middle, you have the unending conflict in Beverly Hills. The Kyle Richards and Dorit Kensley situation shows how loyalty is just constantly being tested, especially when you're dealing with the sensitive subject of family and divorce.
Yeah, the wounds of past trust issues, like Kyle saying she exaggerated their closeness, they never truly heal. So when Kyle defended PK as a father, Dorit didn't interpret it as empathy for the children.
No, she saw it as confirmation that Kyle's loyalty to their friendship was easily dismissed.
And then you have the direct combatants, like Jeff Lascani, who felt compelled to release his 6 facts to push back against what he calls a manufactured narrative. He asserted the supremacy of the real-life timeline over the dramatic TV timeline,
arguing he had to defend his name against a scheme he claims was entirely fabricated by editors purely for ratings.
And in contrast to all that defense and drama, you have Giudice. She represents a new generation of reality celebrity who is navigating intimacy and public scrutiny on her own terms.
She offers these highly candid confessions about sex and intimacy on external platforms, while at the same time setting these very firm professional boundaries, like consistently turning down Love Island to protect her foundational relationship.
So what does this all mean for you, the viewer or the learner? When stars push back against the narrative, like Jeff Lascani asserting his timeline or Bronwyn Newport expressing her deep regret over oversharing, are they truly correcting the record for personal clarity and integrity?
Or are they simply trying to regain control over a story they willingly surrendered the moment they signed their contracts?
And that raises the important question for you to mull over. In these hyper-produced situations, the truth often exists on three separate and often conflicting planes. There is the raw, intimate reality of the lived experience, what actually happened in their home.
Right.
Then there is the reality of the filmed and edited narrative, the version production constructs to create a story arc. And finally, there's the reality of the shared public information, the context and critique provided by co-stars, social media, and all these subsequent interviews.
As these stars try to reconcile those three truths, which plane of reality holds the most weight when their entire professional and personal lives depend on the public's perception?
The ongoing tension between these three realities is what keeps these dramas running long, long after the final credits roll.